Welcome back. In my previous session, we have discussed about phylum Porifera and Coelenterata. In this section, we are going to be discussing about the phyla Ctenophora and Platyhelminthes. Now, Ctenophora, the phyla Ctenophora is composed of something called the walnut jellyfishes or walnut jellies. Now, as the name itself suggests, the phyla Ctenophora has jellyfishes in them. Okay, now jellyfishes are actually the medusa or the medusoid forms that are only sexually reproducing organisms. Now, the Ctenophora phyla is officially the phyla with a slightly more digestive tract enabled than the Coelenterata. Okay, these also have an incomplete digestive system, but as compared to the Coelenterata members, they have a more advanced digestive tract. Now, Ctenophorans are so called as walnut jellies or comb jellies is because they have 8 layers of something called the combs that are helping in the locomotion of these organisms. Now, that structure is a characteristic of the phyla Ctenophora. The Ctenophora, again, they are also diploblastic organisms, but due to presence of a middle layer called the mesenchyme, okay, mesenchymal, which has collenchyma, okay, collenchyma cells that form as a peculiar connective tissue cells, that these are sometimes called triploblastic organisms, but they are mostly having 2 well-defined layers. Okay, they are the ecto and the endoderm as usual. Now, the Ctenophora phyla has an outer, a transparent layer. These are, as I already mentioned, jellyfish. Okay, therefore they are slightly transparent creatures. Now, the one thing that is most noticeable about the phylum Ctenophora members is the fact that they have a well-developed esophagus, okay, and they have an infundibulum or the stomach. Okay, even though they are incomplete, they have a well-formed stomach with a lot of canals in them. Okay, they are irradiating canal systems inside the infundibulum or the stomach. They have a mouth. Okay, now the digestive tract begins from the mouth and they extend on to the aboral type, oral and the aboral. Oral meaning the mouth, aboral is the end opposite to that of the mouth. Now, there is another characteristic feature of this Ctenophora is that they have an aboral organ called the statocyst. Now, this statocyst, as the name suggests, what is statos? Statos is something related to balance. Okay, so this statocyst is a disc that is present on the aboral side of these organisms, and these are a characteristic of the phylum Ctenophora. Okay, as I have already mentioned, they have an advanced digestive system and they only reproduce sexually. Okay, and their larva is the Cypridium larvum. Okay, these larval forms, again, they are involved in the indirect development of the Ctenophoran members. The Ctenophora phyla is again classified into 2 classes based on whether or not they have a tentacle or not. Now, the function of tentacle as I've already mentioned in case of the cnidarian members is to capture food. If tentacles are present in these organisms, they are generally 2 in number, okay, with something called lasso cells, okay, coloblasts or lasso cells, which is again a characteristic feature of the phylum Ctenophora. Lasso cells or coloblasts are sticky in nature. Okay, that is why they help in harvesting of the food. Okay, that is how the animals collect food and they are taken into the digestive tract. Now, the classification of these include tentaculata. As the name suggests, they have the tentacles. One of the examples is system, and another class called the nuda, okay, that has only one member called bore. Okay, so the tentaculata, these are those organisms that have a tentacle, okay, which are generally 2 in number with lasso or coloblasts, and nuda are those that have no tentacles, which is the only example, the boro. Okay, so this was about the phylum Ctenophora. Now let's go on to the fourth phylum, and these are the Platyhelminthes. Now you have to split the name into two parts. Will give you an idea about what the phylum has. Now platy is flat, helminthes is worm. Okay, so mainly this phylum has flatworms in it. Now what are flatworms? Flatworms are basically dorsoventrally flattened worms. Okay, these worms vary anywhere between a few micrometers to a few centimeters, but that's about it. They do not get bigger than maybe 4 or 5 centimeters. That is how small these worms are, with the exception of tapeworms, which can grow into meters length in the intestine. Okay, now the flatworms, as I already told you, are dorsoventrally flattened organisms, and they have a small a head with a cross ladder like nervous system in them. Now these are officially the triploblastic organisms in the animal kingdom. Okay, they are acoelomates. Okay, mind you, they do not have a coelom, but they are still triploblastic. Okay, this is where the official three, the ecto, meso and the endoderm starts forming in the animal kingdom. And these ones are, as I've already mentioned, have a soft cuticle on them. Okay, they also sometimes have a syncytial epidermis in them. Okay, and sometimes some of these worms also have cilia. Now these worms are either free living or parasitic. If they are free living, they are mostly present in fresh water. And one of the characteristic of these worms is that they have a ladder like nervous system, and they have a cuticle, and they are triploblastic with no coeloms. Now the Platyhelminthes also reproduce by producing larvae with many stages of development in them, and the Platyhelminthes also has an incompletely produced or incompletely developed digestive tract. Now when I say incompletely developed digestive tract, there is a reason for it. Most of these worms are, as I mentioned, parasitic worms. Okay, so they don't really need a digestive tract to digest whatever is given. They directly absorb the food through diffusion, general diffusion by their cuticle. Okay, now epidermis or the cuticle that is present on the outer surface of their bodies. Now most worms also are present in they also are digenetic. Okay, if they are parasitic, they have two hosts, okay, in them. Like for example, tapeworm has two hosts, that is man and pork, okay, pig. So that way many of these Platyhelminthes members are parasitic, and some are disease causing as well, which we'll see in a little while. Now the Platyhelminthes, they are as I've already mentioned, are slightly advanced than the Ctenophora. Okay, so it will by the fact that they are free living sometimes, and they are also fresh water, and they have some eye-like structures, okay, sensory structures in them, proves that they are slightly more advanced than the Ctenophoran members. Now when I say sensory also includes cilia and all that. Now another one of the most important features of these is presence of something called the solenocytes or the flame cells. Now these cells are exclusively for excretory purpose. Okay, this is the only phyla with solenocytes or flame cells that are used for excretory purpose. Now the classification of Platyhelminthes is based on their life cycles, whether they are free living, parasitic, okay, or if they have only one host, etc. The first class is Turbellaria. Now Turbellarian members are usually free living. Okay, one of the few examples of these is Planaria or Dujacia. Okay, now next is the trematode. I'm sure you all have heard of something called flukes, liver fluke and the like. Now one of the specialities of flukes is that they have a very well developed hooking organ. Okay, around their mouth region they have a series of hooks, okay, that will help them latch onto the intestine or the digestive tract of the host. Okay, so one of these examples is the fasciola. So as I already mentioned, these are parasitic because they have a well developed hook-like structure. Next comes the cystoda. Now you could easily say from here to here, this was free living, this was parasitic, mostly parasitic, this is completely parasitic. Okay, so one of the classic examples of a cystodon member is the Taenia. Taenia is nothing but the tapeworm. Okay, tapeworm, it can either be a pork tapeworm or a beef tapeworm, but a tapeworm. Okay, so cystodon members are again parasitic in nature. Now, as I've already mentioned, their sexual cycle involves production of an advanced larva. Actually, it has a multiple larval stages. Okay, and one of the most interesting characteristics of these phylum is that the subphylum, the cystoda has the subclass, the cystoda has something called the proglottids. The proglottids are mature, okay, organs per se. Okay, they have to be fertilized eggs. Okay, a lot of them. So they are released from the host body through the excreta of the host, especially in case of tapeworm, and these are the ones that get into the soil and contaminate the soil and water and everything. When that soil and water is consumed by another host, that is how the Taenia host is picked up from one host and given to the body of the other host. So the life cycle of these parasitic worms continue because the worms being exclusively parasitic need one host or the other to be surviving both their vegetative and sexual cycles. So that was about the phyla Platyhelminthes.